Well, a lot goes on in the world of politics, and we try and keep you up to date the best way we can through our website, Flow News 24. We're constantly putting up posts and even podcasts for you to have a look at and a listen to. Make sure you do, flownews24.com.au. And it's always been a big week in politics. To find out what is going on, I always love to say this, crossing to our Canberra bureau from flownews24.com.au, we have our very own Hannah Phillips. G'day, Hannah. How are you today?
I'm good. It's been a very interesting week in politics. I almost could be taking off someone from our sports show there with a big week in Murray River football.
Well, it has been a big week in politics. It's there have been stories left, right and centre, and I just wanted to recap some of those with you, and we've been covering it on the website, flownews24.com.au. But I guess the one that's really dominated a lot of the media landscape this week is the allegations of a rape and all this and being covered up and all that. So what's it been like in Canberra with all that?
Oh, look, it's an interesting landscape here. There's a lot of people, when you talk about this issue with people, there's a lot of people who hold back because we all know what this means. We all understand the implications of where this goes and how this has to be dealt with. And there's been a lot of questions asked in the Parliament recently on this, and who knew what at what time and when was the Prime Minister's office notified. And I think a big question that has started to come out from this is the person who has alleged these allegations, why have they come out now? They were offered to go to the Australian Federal Police. They were offered the opportunity to go to the Prime Minister's office to work this out. A security guard saw this person in a state of undress. There's a lot of questions being raised, and as you can understand, the government, in a sense, is going into a damage control, I guess, to ensure that people are actually being protected and that there are investigations into how people conduct themselves within the Parliament. There's a lot of, interesting information that's come out, but a lot of it can't be substantiated. So therefore, it's one of those things where you just have to kind of wait and see where this one goes.
Could we see a minister or someone very high up losing their position?
I wouldn't want to speculate on that, but I would say that for this sort of thing to happen, there has to be some serious accountability on the parts of people involved and on, obviously, ministers in the Parliament. And I wouldn't want to say that someone could lose their job over this, but I wouldn't say it couldn't happen. It definitely is something that could be a possibility. But at this stage here, the questions have been asked. The investigation will continue. I think it depends how much media spotlight and how much fire is put underneath this. The allegations did actually happen, were actually launched on the project, as I understand, by the lady involved. And so going straight to a media source does mean that we're going to see a lot of simmering on this one here as to where this goes in the future.
The other big story of the week, I was having trouble getting you on Facebook yesterday. I wonder why, Han.
Yes. No, luckily they didn't hit my Facebook. I'm very glad about that. I know that a couple of journalist friends were actually hit with their personal accounts. But yes, social media definitely did have a breakdown yesterday, especially in news. It was a bit of a worry. I must say that the government had responded and actually said that the big tech giant Facebook was actually quite arrogant in its dealings, because not only did they choose to shut down major news outlets around Australia, they did actually shut down some of our warning system outlets. Now, a lot of people, and you and I probably included in this, Clayton, we use social media. Yep. And we probably use it when we're looking for fire updates or when we're living in an area that there could be a fire. We go to our social media feed and click on that link that tells you about where that fire, where that flood could be. Those services were affected as well. And that's quite crucial because they were messaging service. I do know that SA Health had a problem as well, where they actually were shut down. I find that quite interesting as a state health provider. They were shut down as well off of social media. But the Prime Minister has come out and said the big tech giant was arrogant. Talks started basically immediately to get the news feeds back on for our news agencies around Australia. Flow News 24 was somehow immune from the purge, so that's a fantastic thing. We were still up and running. But we do understand that news should be something that people should be able to get their hands on. And the way social media works is it has put a congregation of people together, and it's 3 billion users on social media. And let's face it, we can't follow everything. It's a 24-hour news cycle. There's a lot happening all around the world. And we have friends on social media who inform us of their niche topics that they follow. And so not having access to Australian news would be a real shame. But it does give us a real understanding, Clayton, of just how much power tech giants have.
Yes, so that argument about them having too much power, or we've allowed them to have that, it's starting to shine a bit of a spotlight on that too.
It definitely is. And this is all coming back to the discussion with Google. People might not be aware that Google is really working quite hard with Australian news providers to come up with an agreement for paying for news. The idea that Google would like to put their news on our news, so Australian news, on their news website, it means that we're seeing that being a need for a payment or an exchange of money to take place. And this is where this has come from. This is why there's such a war happening, and why Facebook decided to actually shut us down for that 24-hour period.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and another one that we'll be following. Now, Hannah, I heard a story, and you're in Canberra, you're the one to know. What's going on with nuclear energy? I understand it's back on the table.
Yes, this is an interesting one. The Clean Energy and Finance Corporation bill, it was set to be bought out. This is a very interesting bill about how we're going to do energy into the future. And Barnaby Joyce has come out like he does and has sort of moved an amendment in the lower house to basically add in nuclear energy, as I understand. And this is one of those interesting debates. In the Howard era of government, if I recall correctly, we actually stopped any use of nuclear energy. We actually said we weren't going to use it. But it keeps coming up on the table, and it's this discussion because of coal-fired power stations being shut down, and the idea we need to go to cleaner energy into the future. But the energy plan may include nuclear power. And this is one of those debates that we all have because everyone goes nuclear and we all think of Fukushima, and then we all think of Chernobyl, and then we all go, that sounds like a great idea. But the reality is that here in Australia, it could potentially have some benefits for Australia, especially in coming up with base load power. But I wonder if this will actually get up, or it's just a pie-in-the-sky idea. I have heard Angus Taylor, the Energy Minister, say previously to this, that if there was any nuclear power that was going to happen, there would need to be a manufacturer looking to be part of that deal for that to even be considered. So I do wonder if nuclear power is something that they're looking at futuristically, or if it's something they're keeping on to keep people happy. I do know that there has been a lot of discussion in relation to nuclear energy. Around 3/4 of the Liberal Party actually support it, and 7 nationals that we know of support going to a nuclear energy plan. So I wonder what it looks like in the future in the landscape of power for Australia. I don't know where it's going to go, but it is an interesting discussion that has just begun around nuclear power, and if this is something that could be included in our landscape in the years to come.
It's something that it needs to be a discussion, and an enlightened discussion too, not just because of all the extreme factions of it all, but we need to have a debate about it, and then you're dead right there, we need to do that. Well, they usually say that in politics that Friday is garbage day, so is there anything going out in the trash that we need to be made aware of?
Look, no, this week I think had enough news stories of its own. Social media going down, I think just sort of set Canberra into a bit of a tailspin. Twitter was alight. We were all trying to work out how we were going to get back on. It was quite entertaining watching, considering Flow News 24 didn't actually get caught up in the purge.
It was very good. All right, any stories that break over the weekend, folks, make sure you keep it tuned to our website, flownews24.com.au. You will see anything breaking. It'll be on that site. Hannah, thanks very much. We'll be talking to you again. You take care and enjoy yourself in Canberra, and say good day to John and Roger for us too.
I will. Thanks so much.